Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today we're going to be talking about the newest album from Weezer called Pacific Daydream. So, as many of you probably know, didn't really like that last Weezer album, another self-titled release otherwise known as the White Album. Now, to me, I found the lyrical arc a little undercooked and occasionally very questionable, the delivery underwhelming, and the production to be rather all over the place. And that helped by bringing in producer Jake Sinclair for the first time, who didn't seem to grasp the melodic subtleties in the groove that has always been Weezer's greatest strength on records like the Blue Album and Pinkerton and Everything Will Be Alright in the End. But I will be the first to admit that I was in the minority of that opinion. A lot of folks found something in the White Album that they really liked, and for diehard Weezer fans, hey, given what you guys have gone through over the past 20 years, all the power to you. I wish I could have liked this album more. So it got me a little bit worried when I started hearing the buzz for Pacific Daydream. Not just that it had resulted in the shelving of darker material for the rumored Black Album, but also that it was a more sedate, pop-leaning affair, which is about the last direction I think most Weezer fans want them to go. And to get there, they changed producers yet again to bring in J.R. Rodham and mega producer Butch Walker, who has actually worked with Weezer before on Raditude. And when it didn't look like even the critics were on board this time, I was genuinely worried about this. And look, I will never say I am the biggest Weezer fan. I like the Blue Album, I like Pinkerton, I like Everything Will Be Alright in the End. Not a lot else there, but Rivers Cuomo, he knows his way around a really good hook. But also considering the last time I heard Rivers Cuomo collaborate with a pop band in 2017, it was AJR's The Click. I had very little faith that his pop instincts were going in the right direction right now. But okay, what did I find with Pacific Daydream? Honestly, it kind of reminds me a lot of the projects that Weezer released in the mid to late 2000s. Languid, meandering, maybe peripheral to a few decent hooks or offbeat lyrical ideas, but generally kind of forgettable all around. You know, a record that might have picked up a little bit of play in mid-August in Southern California, but in late October, early November will be roundly forgotten within a few days by pretty much everybody else. Only this time updated for a modern audience by cutting in on the few reliable strengths that Weezer still has. I'm not going to say this album is outright bad or the worst thing that the band has ever done, but it does feel a lot more disposable and pointless than a Weezer record really should. And I gotta say it, that's a really big problem at this point in their career. And for once, it's actually pretty easy to pinpoint why this is. Something that Rivers Cuomo has cited a lot in the interviews leading up to this release, the Beach Boys. Now, Rivers Cuomo has made it no secret that he's been a fan of the legendary 60s rock group for a while. But where said influence on his writing mostly touched in sunny lyrics and rock-solid melodic hooks before, Pacific Daydream might be the closest he's ever come to openly trying to grab onto some of their style, with a collection of summer songs about lazy days, fleeting love, a little bit of loneliness, and the overdubbed vocal harmonies in order to recreate that classic vocal interplay. Now look, I am a really big Beach Boys fan, and on my first few listens, there were moments I could hear the callbacks in some of the chord structure and the overall atmosphere, with Sweet Mary being one of the best examples and one of the high points on this album. But here's the problem. I have heard modern recreations of the Beach Boys that can stick the landing a fair bit better in today's day and age, and what can become kind of alarming is how Weezer's pivot in this direction really does not stick the landing, simply because Weezer is, on a fundamental level, a very different band than the Beach Boys were. You might not like Panic at the Disco, but Brendan Urie's balance of old school pop theatricality fits a Beach Boys impression a lot more than Rivers Cuomo imitating some of the vocal harmonies and running through a slew of wistful, painfully adolescent summer songs that with his tepid delivery sound increasingly half-assed. And that's the first part of this big problem. While both Rivers Cuomo and the Beach Boys found success in real earnestness in their songwriting, the writing ultimately came from a very different emotional core, with Rivers Cuomo firmly residing in a smaller, more introspective space full of nerd references and paralyzing awkwardness. And that's an attitude that rewards going for big emotions, look at Pinkerton, but not mellow meandering that feels increasingly listless as girls drift in and out of his life on the weekends, like on Feels Like Summer and Weekend Woman, and he can't find anybody with whom to do algebra with on QB Blitz. And there's always been that sense of arrested development in a lot of Rivers Cuomo's writing, especially recently, and I'd like to think that his oddly tired delivery provides the subtext of seeing that youth-obsessed world just pass him by in Southern California, until you read his annotations on Genius and you realize that that subtext isn't there. at all. As much as he would throw pot shots at a cool hip-hop world while still worshipping the Beach Boys and dropping Monty Python references, there's little to no self-awareness of how this makes him look at his age and with the current stage that Weezer is in. But it's the production that really lets Weezer down here. And the other major problem with emulating the Beach Boys. Even before Pet Sounds, the Beach Boys were pushing the sound of rock into more complex directions, not watering their sound down like what Weezer does here. If you like that guitar riff that opens up Mexican Fender, it's about the only thing close to a vintage Weezer guitar lick you're gonna get on this album, because the electric guitar is then often isolated to the background behind gated drum work, thicker bass lines, some rather delicate acoustic guitars with a texture that's just been blasted away, and a mix that overall feels a lot more hazy and washed out. Seriously, Feels Like Summer sounds like Ryan Tedder was producing a mid-2010s Fall Out Boy tune, and somehow it is less interesting. I mean, I'll give points to giving these songs a foundation with some actual bass this time around, but that shouldn't come at the expense of the melodies that made Weezer so distinct in the first place. They should be at the forefront, not mix into a sandy blur with entirely too little texture that doesn't build any crunch or potency. And no, those buzzy segments tacked onto the hooks of Get Right and Any Friend of Diane's, they don't help. Now, I'll admit it says a lot about Weezer that these songs are as passable and generally affable as they are, but with lyrics that feel thinner than ever and a lack of proper emphasis on instrumental melody, even despite the melodies being pretty good, it's less a light summer love than a late summer hangover. But you know what, look, I'm not gonna say this is a bad record, but honestly that's because Pacific Daydream is so blurry, insubstantial, and lacking in distinctive character of the best of both Weezer and the Beach Boys that it's not really even worth actively disliking. For diehard Weezer fans, look, I honestly can't tell you if this will be the straw that finally breaks the camel's back for you, given some of this discography that's come before, but if you want Weezer to make even more passable pop rock that's pretty disposable and bland, pretty good songcraft that's ruined by bad production and Rivers Cuomo's refusal to engage with intensity or any sort of interesting lyricism that doesn't feel this tired and half-assed. So yeah, for me, it's a light 5 out of 10. I really can't recommend it. But I'm being honest, the bigger issue is that in a day or two, I won't remember this album either. And that's the bigger problem. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. Folks, I wanted to be more positive on this, but Weezer has done so much better than this. It really just went in one ear and for the most part right out the other. And for a band that is so renowned for their melodies, that's a problem. But hey, if you want to buy it, links in the description below, and I got the pull up there for all you diehard Weezer fans. Actually, I have no idea where you guys are going to fall on it. There's the pull. Please tell me, I'm curious. Beyond that, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if you guys want to get involved in my scheduling process and support this channel, link to my Patreon right over there, where 3 times a week you guys get to vote on my schedule, and once a week for the higher tier contributors you get to add albums, movies, or even a top 10 list to that schedule. More details right over there. But till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.